Dear friends and followers, welcome back to my channel. Greetings from home. It got so hot in Texas that I ended up staying here instead of going to church. And of course, just went down to the dollar store late this morning after church was over and got myself some nice cold ice cream. So, let's talk about the heat. And there's a lot of effects that it does to a vehicle. For electric vehicles, it means it could catch fire. For gas-powered vehicles, it could shut down on the side of the road. And in either case, a tire blowout could be inevitable. So, let's talk about the heat right now on Truckin It. Okay, so this is Truckin It number 231. We're talking about the heat. It is so hot in Texas that you and your truck can overheat. So, I want to cover the truck first and then cover you. On the truck, there's three things that can happen. One of which is a tire blowout. You should know how to prevent those by now. If you don't, it's just a matter of inflate the tires, don't haul overweight, and don't drive super fast. Easy enough. But I still want to talk with you about the tires anyway. Because there is a max safe speed, and it's basically the max speed limit here in Texas. 75 miles per hour. Or about 120 kilometers for those of y'all in the metric system. If you go much faster than that, there's pretty much a guaranteed chance that you're going to blow a tire. Because that's what the tires are rated for, as tested by the manufacturers and the United States Department of Transportation. So, it's a wise idea to make sure that your tires are properly inflated, that you're not exceeding the capacity of their load rating, and that you drive with caution. And speaking of driving fast, that'll accelerate the process of overheating your engine. Now, overheating happens when the engine just gets too hot to continuously run, resulting in things like blown cylinders, vehicle fires, and such. I have seen a couple of overheating vehicles spontaneously combust along the side of the highway because the drivers weren't paying attention to their gauge clusters. And when the vehicle started knocking and giving them warning signs, they didn't have a clue as to what was going on. And that can result in disaster. Now, there's two types of overheating. There's overheating of the cooling system, and there's vapor lock. Overheating of the cooling system is the more common of the two these days. Now, most vehicles have a coolant temperature gauge on them that'll start rising quickly from normal when the temperature of the coolant exceeds 180 degrees. It goes up to 200, then 220, then 230, and then full hot. Once it reaches about 230, that's when you start having engine problems. If it reaches full hot, your vehicle's alarms and bells and whistles are going to be going off, telling you to get off the road as fast as possible. And on some vehicles, like the Freightliner Semi I normally drive, they even have a timed shutdown that the driver can only override long enough to get onto the shoulder, set the parking brakes, and let it cool. And then the damage that can occur from overheating includes a blown engine, worn piston rings, cylinder knock. So this is serious stuff, man. Just don't ignore the warning signs. And do check your fluids before you leave. Now we get on to another type of overheating. This one's called vapor lock. Unlike the overheating engine, you're not going to see symptoms of vapor lock until it's almost too late. The main symptom is that your fuel gauge is low, so not zero, not on E. You're cruising down the road, minding your business, suddenly you hear maybe a weird airplane-like noise, or your engine just shuts down. When this occurs, you lose your power steering, you lose your ability to steer in some cases. The engine just goes full shutdown. When this happens, you better be within close range of a gas station because this is almost the same as running out of fuel. But you gotta wait a while for that fuel to cool down. When this happens. And this is less of an issue on modern vehicles as it is on the older ones. But it is still recommended that you prevent this problem in the first place. And the way to do that is to keep your tanks full. And that's definitely caused me to scratch my head a little bit because it's pretty rare that this occurs anymore. In fact, it's more common nowadays for vehicles to catch fire as opposed to having vapor lock. So, now that we've got the vehicle out of the way, let's talk about you and how this heat affects you. So, as a driver, you should expect the following. Impaired alertness, because it is so dadgum hot, the sweat's going to be pouring down your head. Impaired judgment. Extreme fatigue. Sunburn in some cases. And then, for those of y'all who work outside doing stuff like restaurant work and such, you can get real sick real quick. There's two things to look for. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat exhaustion, like what I had on August 16th, 2016, when I finally found out I was a diabetic. This symptom will leave you crawling on the ground because you'll be so dadgum tired you won't be able to stay up on your side step. And it gets worse from there. You'll feel muscle cramps. You'll feel excessive sweating. You'll feel nausea, vomiting, that kind of stuff. And that's just the tip of the flame. Because then we go into heat stroke. Your body starts turning blue. You pass out. You feel very sick and tired. So, here's what you do. First thing, stay hydrated. Water and Gatorade are your friend right now. And you want to lay off some of the caffeine, like the coffee and the soft drinks. Just lay it off. 2, make sure your air conditioner in your truck is working. I don't know how many times I had problems with that ParkSmart system back in 2016. Before I found out I was really sick. But that ParkSmart system really sucked then. I really wish the company would have spec'd a regular APU instead. In addition to that, you've got to make sure that you are feeling well enough to drive. FMCSA rules state that if a driver does not feel comfortable or safe driving due to extreme heat, illness, bad weather, anything, that driver has the right to shut down without penalty. Some companies may call you a wuss or a bonehead. I'm here to tell you, you're not a wuss or a bonehead if you're not in a position to cause a wreck. And lastly, even if you have to pay for a hotel room, do yourself a favor and try anything to stay cool. And by anything, I mean, if you need to make sure you have adequate sleep and you're able to stay cool all night. If the air conditioning goes out on your truck for whatever reason, you should know how to reset it. And if a reset doesn't work, you should have a charge card at the ready so you can go to a hotel, get yourself cooled off, and stay there until the problem can get resolved. Now, it may be hard to come by a room that's truck accessible. That's understandable. But in the end, your life is worth it. Especially given that when the AC quits, you're out. At least for a home, I can just buy one. I can't do that for a semi. So, maintain your vehicle, stay hydrated, keep your cool. That's the only strategy that works in this extremely hot weather. Yes, you can eventually get acclimated, but really, that would involve a lot of trips to state parks and stuff. And I'm thinking that's on next week's schedule for me. So next week, I plan on taking off and not doing an episode. Because I'm going to need some time to recoup from this. But until next time, let's make your best trip your next trip. Keep learning, keep thinking, keep on trucking. Bye for now.